The following episode of the Comics and Crypto podcast is for informational purposes only, and anything expressed by the hosts or their guests is solely their opinion. This podcast does not constitute financial advice, and anyone wishing to invest should seek their own independent financial or professional help. Have fun and enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Sean O'Hare, and I know comics.
Hi, I'm Spencer Vogel, and I know crypto.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee Loader, and I don't know shit. This is the Comics and Crypto podcast.
Comics and crypto, crypto and comics, collector's world in a digital age. Comics and crypto, crypto and comics, it's where the next billionaires will be made. It's comics and crypto.
Welcome to the Comics and Crypto podcast, your one-stop shop for all news and discussions regarding comics and NFTs. In this podcast, we will be chatting with our comic expert Sean, crypto expert Spencer, and we will be introducing everyone to comic books, NFTs, and how these two worlds are merging in our fast-growing digital age. Guys, we're here. We did it.
Hello.
We made
Holy
it.
crap.
Hi, world.
Wow. It has been an interesting ride getting to this point,
I
but
know,
we are
this is
here and we're ready to crush it.
Lots of preparation, but we're ready to go.
Are you guys ready for some deep, deep questions?
Yeah.
Sean,
Yes.
how long have you been collecting comic books and where did you get your start?
So I've been collecting comics for quite a few years now. I've always been a collector. You know, when I was a kid, I used to collect baseball cards and like football cards and basketball cards and all that. I used to get those Beckett's. You guys know what Beckett is?
No.
It's a big company. They actually own CBCS. We'll get into that later. But Beckett, they would send monthly magazines that you would get at your house and basically give you a grading of how much your card was worth. So based on the player's performances, based on popularity, your card would literally go up and down each month like the stock market.
Oh, wow.
So at age like 7, I was literally investing in buying baseball cards and basketball cards and all this stuff. And I would predict how much these things were worth based off players' performances. So like, for example, when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, you know, they're going for the home run record, I knew that was their rookie card was going to be massive. So what I do, I go and get the rookie card. And sure enough, later that year, boom, massive ROI.
Wait. So you were 7-year-old, like on the playground, like dealing cards and
Yeah.
like getting.
Well, that was more Pogs, but yeah.
Oh, Pogs. Oh my God. I love
I
Pogs.
got in trouble on
But
the
yeah,
playground for Yu-Gi-Oh cards,
it's-
so I get it.
just hustling. But yeah, it was so much fun. And that was, you know, it's so funny. Like comic books, it kind of reignited that love and passion that I have for investing. To answer your question, for comic books, I've been doing it for a few years now. And the first comic that I ever bought was actually a Rick and Morty sketch from Justin Roiland. And it's the Peace Among Worlds sketch. If you're a Rick and Morty fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I bought it and it was graded. It had a yellow label on it. And it was graded and it sparked my interest in the entire industry. And from there, I went to a few comic book shows and met some people that helped me understand the process and what to buy and how to think, and also have foresight, you know, of what people are going to want.
Nice. Yeah, I felt like you really got into comics very quickly. Like you were really.
Oh yeah, I was all in.
Yeah, you were
Yeah,
all in.
yeah.
You were just like, I got this.
Thank you,
But
thank you, Kev, for
yeah.
letting me nerd out and show you all my newest cool
No problem.
books.
to give Sean a lot of credit though, like immediately he was doing like really good deals and making good decisions and having like these comic books that I was like, wow, how did you get that?
It's-
That
yeah.
I was impressed, man. I was
Thanks,
impressed, dude.
thanks, Kev.
He knows how
Yeah,
to wheel
it's-
and deal, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That 7-year-old Sean came in.
I came
came
in,
in
yeah.
clutch.
And yeah. I keep looking back at that, and I never realized, Sean, man, you're hustling back then, dude. I didn't.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Spencer, did Sean introduce you to comics?
Yes, Sean introduced me to comics. So yeah, I introduced him to crypto, but what I introduced him initially to was Engine Coin, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point. You know, I got him back into that, I think probably back in 2019 or something like that. And he hit me up back in, I want to say March or something like that. And he was just like, hey, dude, this thing that you told me to buy years ago is worth way more than what it was what I bought it for. And he was like, this is awesome. Like, and yeah, so things were starting to click for him on the crypto side of things. And he was like, hey, I have this cool opportunity. Thanks for introducing me to crypto. I'd love to introduce you to comics. So yeah, Sean ultimately got me into comics. I started doing my research back in probably March 2021, and I bought my first comic book it was April 1st, 2021.
Wow.
And yeah, so my first ever comic that I bought, it was a Secret Wars #1 newsstand, graded 9.8,
Ooh.
which I'm very happy with that purchase, and
Yes.
looking forward to talking more about that book going forward. But similar to Sean, I was a huge collector as a kid in elementary school. I was wheeling and dealing the Pokemon cards and the Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the playground. Got in a little bit of trouble for that. I guess it was frowned upon to be making financial transactions on school property as a third grader, but to each their own. But I've always had this passion for collecting. My dad was super into collecting. He collected stamps and coins, so he got me into it at a very young age.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't really done a whole lot of collecting since I was a kid, aside from NFTs. NFTs is really what got me back into the whole collecting mindset. Yeah, so since I bought that first book in April, I've purchased well over 100 books.
Your collection's getting really big.
Mix
Wow.
of graded and raw comics, and also very similar to Sean, learned
Yeah.
about it and then jumped right in with 2 feet right away. And yeah, it's
That's
been a
how
lot
you
of
learn
fun.
to swim, buddy.
It's been so
That's how you
fun.
learn to
Yeah.
swim.
Yeah, and investing in comics is actually what led me to my current job, which is pretty incredible. So I have Sean to thank for that as well.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that was a really, really beautiful story, and we'll get into that later.
Absolutely. All right. So, what comic books are considered valuable, and is there still a market for comic books?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. The most valuable comic books that you can really get are key first appearances of characters.
Mm.
There's the comic books ideally are separated by different ages. You have the Golden Age, which is essentially from 1938 to 55. And those are like the original Superman, so the original Batman. So those are the Holy Grail comics.
Right.
And then you have Silver Age comics, about 1955 to 56 to 1970. And those comics is where we really introduce the Marvel characters that we know today. Like, for example, you have Fantastic Four #1, which was released in 1961. And that was Stan Lee's very first comic that he worked on with Jack Kirby.
Oh, really?
And yeah, that is not only considered the foundation of Marvel that we know today, but it's also the first appearance of the Fantastic Four. The next stage is the Bronze Age, which is about 1971 to 85. And you have really big books in here too. You have the first appearance of the new X-Men. So you have Giant Size X-Men 1, which is the first introduction of Storm and Nightcrawler. The Incredible Hulk 181 with the introduction of Wolverine.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then from there, you have what's called the Modern Age, which is basically 1985 to present. So you have a lot of 90s X-Men comics, a lot of DC as well. A first appearance of Harley Quinn, and it goes all the way up to today. But as far as value, you have the most important ones are the ones that are key first appearances of popular characters. So, for example, Fantastic Four 52, which is the introduction of the Black Panther, the first appearance of the Black Panther, very significant character in MCU. You also have Fantastic Four #48. Fantastic Four introduced a lot of characters, as you can tell. But Fantastic Four 48 was the introduction of the Silver Surfer and Galactus,
right,
which are going to be massive characters in the MCU in the next coming years. But then you also can come to the present day, right? So you have the Ultimate Fallout 4, which introduces Miles Morales, which is a really, really, really big book. And that came out in 2012. So that's a recent issue. Or the one Spencer mentioned, the Secret Wars #1. That came out in 1985, I think. So it's definitely a Bronze Age book. But also speculation. Speculation is so big in the comic book world because the second news comes out about a show or a movie, boom, it literally blows up overnight.
I was actually going to ask about that because,
Yeah.
you were mentioned the MCU and how that matters.
Mhm.
The whole cinematic universe kind of really affected the way some of these comics are valued now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the comic books were. I mean, if you look at the prices over the past 20, 30 years, it's it's so different. It's so different. Even about 5 years ago, you look at prices, or 2 years ago, shoot, even 6 months ago, the prices are changing so fast. And specifically the graded comics, right? So if you're going to branch it down, it's key first appearances or first issues or key events, but usually key first appearances of characters. And then based on those comics, you grade them. So there's two companies, one's called CGC and the other one's called CBCS. CGC is kind of the top dog because they've been around for a long time. I think they came around in 2000.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've been around for quite some time. And then CBCS, which is they're considered second place, but they're growing quick and they're owned by Beckett. And CGC was just purchased by Blackstone, which is owned by Jay-Z. So Jay-Z now owns CGC.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Did you guys not know that?
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, it's pretty wild.
Oh wow! So Jay-Z is now
He owns
officially
CGC.
into
Yeah, he
comics
owns all these
and
comic books on my
collectibles.
walls are
Oh wow!
that's his company. But yeah, so the grading system, that's so important to a lot of collectors because collectors always want to differentiate value, right? So you look at a comic book and you assess the corners, the spines, are all the pages intact? And they give you, and if that's the case, you have a blue label. If the book is fully intact, you have a blue label. And that's what everyone shoots for. And based on that, it goes even further. You have a number between 1.8 to 9. Well, essentially 10.0, but a 10.0 and a 9.9 are very hard to get, even for new age comics or brand new comics. But 9.8 is considered usually the highest. So yeah, so between 1.8 to 9.8 is the grade based on the valuation of the book itself. And then you get a blue label. Now, if the book is signed and witnessed by someone at a comic book show, specifically by someone by CGC, then you get a yellow label.
Mm.
And then there's also, it goes on. There's more. You ever heard about this? I envy you. You also have a purple label, which is a restoration label. Yeah. So if your book has been restored in any way, or if it's been trimmed, which is massively frowned upon because you have cheaters trying to cut corners, and
so literally trying to make the edges.
Yeah,
smoother.
literally trying to make the edges. Yeah. And in my opinion, those are like the tarnished books.
Right.
If a book is like, if you have a color touching on the front, or if you like re-text the spine, or if you're cleaning the staples, things like that, it's totally fine because you're just trying to make the book better and you're not cheating.
Right.
But when you cut or trim corners, you're
That's
basically trying to
literally-
cheat your way to a better
Right.
grade, which I've seen big books lose literally thousands and thousands of dollars.
Oh,
because of it.
really?
Yeah, because restoration labels, you are probably about 50% less, if not more sometimes.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
Damn.
So
Sean, I want to fact check you really quick, just for our listeners. Jay-Z does not own Blackstone. Blackstone, though, does have a large stake in CGC, and Jay-Z was involved in the deal. But he does not own Blackstone. Blackstone is one of the largest investment banks in the world. Jay-Z does not have that much money.
Okay, I was
Jay-Z does not have that much money.
Thank you for that.
I thought Jay-Z owned Blackstone.
No, definitely not.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Whoops.
Well, thank you so much for the clarification, Spencer. Appreciate
You got
it.
it.
Because I was
But
like,
Jay-Z
wow,
was involved.
Jay-Z,
I got that part
Jay-Z's
right.
a baller. I didn't know how. Goddamn.
But yeah, Jay-Z was involved and owns part of CGC now.
Okay, cool.
So he was just like involved in like
Yeah, he was
owns
involved
his-
in the
he's
deal.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
he's part owner.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
oh,
he is
exactly.
still
Okay.
involved.
Thanks for clarifying,
but-
Spencer.
Okay,
You
perfect.
got it.
All right. So with all this talk of grading and everything,
Yeah.
what is the most valuable comic?
The holy grail of all comics is the 1938 Action Comics 1, the first appearance of Superman.
That's the one with him in the car.
Yeah,
It's, like,
exactly.
tilted?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a super limited amount of them in the world, and it is probably the most valuable comic of all time because he's the superhero that started it all.
Right. That's
Right?
true.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah. And what's actually really interesting about Superman, his symbol is the most recognized symbol in the world, even more than the Holy Cross.
Wow.
So yeah, so Superman is the original OG. He's the one who started it all. And then you have Batman, which is massively significant. And Batman #1 is his first issue, and that's also very, very valuable. So that between like the Fantastic Four #1 is also very big. Amazing Fantasy 15 is the introduction of Spider-Man, which is right now probably one of the most recognized or celebrated superheroes. That issue is incredibly valuable. And apparently there's one up per auction right now, like a graded 9.4. Apparently they're expecting the sale to be over $2 million.
Wow.
Over $2 million. Yeah. For one comic.
God
Yeah,
damn.
that gives things perspective.
9.4?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
a lot. That's a hell of a
And just to
grade.
like break down, I mean, just the past year, we're looking at sales like Action Comics 1.
Mhm.
We had a CGC 8.5 that sold for 3.25 million. You have Batman #1. Yeah. An 8.0 sell for 1.2 million. A Marvel Spotlight #5, which is the introduction to the first appearance of Ghost Rider, who's going to be a big character in the MCU moving forward, sold for $264,000. It's the only
Woo.
issue known in existence, and it sold for $264,000. And in my opinion, that's probably undervalued.
Yeah, I was about to say.
If it's the only issue in the world, that's insane.
Wow.
It's the only 9.8 known in existence on the CGC consensus. Because just so you guys know, when a book is graded, it's registered. There's public access to this information, specifically on a website one of the websites called Go Collect. We'll get to that later. But you can go on there and you can see how many are available in that grade. So yeah, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And some of the other sales, you look at Giant Size X-Men #1, which is the introduction of the new X-Men that we mentioned. That sold for 9.8 sold for $72,000. A Fantastic Four, number 48, the one I mentioned earlier, is a 9.8, $108,000. A Hulk 181 just sold recently for, I think it was about about $80,000.
Wow.
That was a record sale. Before that, it was $59,000.
Hmm.
But then you look at, there's a ton of comics too that are selling around a couple thousand. Ultimate Fallout number 4, the Miles Morales comic at 9.8, a record sale was around $3,400.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Wow. Aside from popularity and speculations, how else do you assess your investments?
There's a great business tactic that I've come to learn. I actually learned through this wonderful, wonderful comic collector. His name is Reggie, and you can follow him at Reggie Collects. Yeah, Reggie's an amazing guy. Amazing
Great
guy.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Reggie's
I
awesome.
strongly suggest anyone who new or into comics right now, follow Reggie, because he's such a wonderful person and he gives great information about the space. So he mentioned something about blue ocean, red ocean tactics. So the blue ocean, red ocean essentially means, blue ocean, the waters are calm. There's plenty of food in the water. Nobody's fighting. But the red ocean, all the fish are fighting over the small scraps of meat.
Right.
There's not a lot of supply, right? So you want to be in the blue ocean when you buy something, and you want to sell in the red ocean.
Mm.
So for example, there's rumors that the Submariner is going to be in the Black Panther 2 film. And it's beyond strong rumors now. There actually has been leaked photos on set of them filming underwater. So I mean, like,
It was just a scuba scene, Sean.
Yeah, you
It's
can't.
fine.
Yeah. It's like they have massive water tanks on set, and these photos have been leaked. So like, yeah. So I immediately go and I found Submariner number 1 is solo issue. That's a Silver Age book, and I got it graded as a 9.6. I got a really good deal on it, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, the book 3x'd. It 3x'd. Yeah. Two sales.
Wow.
3x'd. Yeah. Since then, and that was 2 weeks later. But that just shows how important and powerful speculation is.
Gotcha.
And when it does come to fruition, boom.
Right. So I guess, yeah. So I guess what my understanding is, like, look ahead and see what might become popular. Get that book now.
Yes.
And that way, once it does, you have that and you have
Exactly.
that ability to get the most out of it.
By then it's the red ocean, and nobody wants to swim in the red ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great analogy. I like that.
Yeah.
one. Reggie,
It's
that's
my whole
awesome.
mindset has changed because of it. And I'm so grateful for that advice. And it's not just, I don't just think about that for comics, but just business in general,
Right.
especially in the NFT space. And what's popular right now. Are we going to see a dip in pricing? This is all stuff you really got to think about.
Yeah.
This is really important.
So with all that said, then what are you most excited for coming up then?
Specific comics?
Yeah. Like,
There's a comic series called Something Is Killing the Children, and it's by again, James Tynion is a writer. He actually worked with DC and Marvel, and the series is, by the way, it's incredible if you haven't read it yet. But Something Is Killing the Children, it came out 2 years ago. A graded 9.8 of that book sells for about floor price around $1,200 right now.
Nice.
The following year, or in a raw copy, when I say raw copy, that means it's ungraded. Raw copy goes for around $300 to $400. The following year, he came out with another series called The Department of Truth. Awesome series. It's actually really good. And floor price for a 9.8 of that is around $150 to $200. Raw copy is around $50. This last year, he came out with another series. This guy just doesn't stop. He's pumping. Nice House on the Lake. 9.8 pre-sales because the book's so new. It came out 2 months ago. 9.8 pre-sales are going for $175. Crazy, right? 9.8 pre-sales on eBay.
Wow.
You can look it up. And raw copies have a floor price of $20 to $30 in 2 months. So if you got a $4 copy, that's 5x in 2 months. And it's only going to grow. This guy's he's absolutely incredible. I mean, I look at him like he's the Stephen King of the comic book world. This guy is just creating.
He does all horror comics, right?
Yeah. Horror. And what's really interesting about these stories, or specifically Something Is Killing the Children, that is actually going to be turned into a show on Netflix.
Yeah.
Show run by Mike Flanagan, who did Haunting of Hill House. I'm actually a huge fan. He also did a film called Hush, which I'm a big fan of. Kevin, are you a fan of that?
I'm in between. I think it's an okay film.
I loved it.
But I love House on Haunted Hill. I love what he did with that.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, specifically,
was it The Haunting of Hill House? I think that's actually.
Yeah, that's the show. Yeah. Because like Hush, what I loved about Hush, it's 3 actors in one location, and it's just captivating. That's really tough to do. But anyways, he's a really talented guy, great director. I feel really strongly it's in good hands. And then also his other show is Department of Truth got picked up by some producers that have done stuff with HBO. So it's easy to presume that the show's going to be on HBO.
Yep.
The Department of Truth. So look at this. I mean, this guy is incredibly successful.
Everything he touches turns to gold.
Yeah.
Everything touches turns to gold. But yeah, my point is, the series that I'm excited about that's coming out is House of Slaughter, which is a spin-off of Something is Killing the Children.
Mm.
If you want, as a fan, to get something that's not only awesome, but also has great ROI, this is an amazing book to get. Not financial advice. But strongly suggested.
If you're inclined.
If you're inclined. I'm very excited about it as a fan and also an investor. I mean, if you look at the series of books that he has, all the first issues, I mean, yeah. I mean, he's a proven track record of ROI. I mean, just look at Nice House on the Lake. We're looking at 5x in 2 months.
Wow.
And it's growing.
Damn. Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
It's so cool.
I can't believe how much stuff he's able to just put out in like a year.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's incredible too, because
crazy.
people have made comments. What, they still make comments? Yeah,
yeah,
they do.
Yes, they do.
And not only that, but they're insane investments, guys.
Exactly.
Like, get out to your comic book shop on October 24th and grab one.
Yeah.
Like, or a couple if you can.
So let's actually dive now into the crypto space. Spencer, why don't you tell me how you got into crypto? And what about NFTs? How long have you been into collecting and buying them?
Yeah, I originally got into the crypto space in summer of 2017. I had a friend who just started investing in them, and he had done really, really well investing in crypto and introduced me to it. And I've invested for most of my life, mostly in the stock market. This is something that I feel like I could wrap my mind around. You know, it's just another asset to trade. I was very skeptical at first when I first started looking into crypto. You know, it's a very new space,
Right.
new types of assets, not really anything I've ever experienced before. So I really joined the space initially as, you know, a speculator and as a trader. I mean, I was just trying to make a quick buck off these assets. But, you know, as I dived deeper in and did more research and really learned about what this was, I started to get really excited about the technology. And what became, you know, more of a hobby became, I guess, a lifetime obsession. And now I'm still here, still investing in crypto. I definitely take more of a long-term mindset when I invest in these assets. And when I invest in something, I try to invest in it for the long haul. I look for companies that I think that, you know, can really do impactful things and can have an impact on the world. When it comes to NFTs, though, I didn't really start investing in NFTs or collecting NFTs until like probably mid 2018, maybe early 2018. You know, this was during the crypto bear market after the huge run up in 2017. My bags were absolutely decimated, so was looking for something else to invest in.
Yep.
And Engine was actually the company that first got me really excited about NFTs. Engine is a gaming platform, and they have a whole bunch of gaming NFTs and different games that they have that are actually playable. We'll get into that, all that stuff later, but that is really where I got my start in NFTs. Is back in 2018, and since then I've just been an avid collector and played a lot of the games. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, that's kind of my start.
Nice. So this question comes deep from my heart. What the fuck is an NFT? I don't know what this is. I keep hearing this word. I know it means non-fungible token, but
Yes,
what is
non-fungible token?
Isn't it that art thing, Spencer?
It's
Yeah, it's that art thing. So yeah, an NFT, it's a scarce digital asset. So these scarce digital assets, they can come in different forms of digital media. So they can be pictures, they can be videos, they can be audio, you know, really any form of digital media. And these assets are secured on the blockchain. So every NFT is unique, non-fungible. In non-fungible token essentially means unique, and it's distinguishable from other similar assets. And this is as opposed to currency, which is fungible, like the US dollar or Bitcoin. These are fungible assets, and each unit of that currency is identical and interchangeable with one another. So there's not really anything to distinguish them or make them unique from one another. So there's a lot of different types of NFTs. As Sean joked about in the beginning, there's art. So, you know, art is kind of where the NFT space has really blown up over the past year. You've seen insane sales figures from people like Beeple for, you know, auctions for $69 million. Other big artists like Trevor Jones, Hackatow, Jose Delbo. Then you also have, which has become popular more recently, the avatars and the profile picture space. So CryptoPunks really started this off. And then now you've had, you know, a million derivative projects from this, like Bored Ape Yacht Club or Cool Cats, you know, to name a few. There's gaming assets. So there are play to earn video games. You know, the blockchain gaming space is, you know, really trying to change the paradigm of gaming and change it from a pay to play model to a play to earn model. There's all these in-game economies that use NFTs and cryptocurrencies, and gaming assets like, for example, a sword in a video game is an NFT. That's actually something that you own. It's in your blockchain wallet. And many times those assets are actually, you can move them around to different games. So the engine ecosystem, which I brought up before, there's about 60 different projects that are currently building on engine, and there's a few assets that are playable currently in like 10 different games right now. So you could own one sword or one shield, and that's movable across different games, which is, something that I think is really powerful and something that you don't normally get in these very closed off gaming environments that we see that most people play today. So moving on, licensed digital collectibles, which is a lot of what this podcast is going to be about. So I don't need to get into that too much right now, as we'll talk a lot about that. There's music NFTs. There people are trying to basically put music royalties onto the blockchain, which I think is really great for artists and removes the middleman and allows artists to really make a lot more money off of what they're doing. There's digital real estate, digital land in some of these metaverses. There's digital fashion and wearables. The list goes on. There's a lot that goes on in this space. So
I
there's
didn't
a lot
even
to be
know
excited
about the video game one. That's crazy.
Yeah. So basically NFTs create authenticity in the digital space. What about the practical world? Can they be like your passports one day? Can they be, your basically your car keys if they're all digital?
For sure. Absolutely. I think that's where things are going at some point. Yeah.
So it's just basically a more secure way of having things that you own almost in the digital world.
In the digital world. I mean, let's face it, everything is going digital.
It is.
Yes. Music, documents, like everything is going digital. And anyone who argues against it, they don't, come on, guys. Like, just look at the things you use every day. Look at your cell phone.
Exactly.
When's the last time you wrote a fucking letter? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's be honest here. Yeah.
Hey, man. Don't you insult my owls and pigeons.
I feel like people, we don't really have the technology to really showcase this stuff. Well, specifically like digital collectibles, but when that happens, especially Apple, they're coming out with their AR and VR glasses in 2 to 3 years. That's going to be a game changer. And by then, who knows where this space is going to be?
Yeah.
So you kept mentioning the word blockchain. I'm not sure what that is. Do you mind just giving a quick explainer of what a blockchain is?
Yeah, so a blockchain is a peer-to-peer network. Essentially, it's a decentralized database. So over time, this database is filled up with transactions. And as people transact on this network in a peer-to-peer way, those transactions are recorded onto the blockchain. And then they're recorded there and they live there forever as long as the blockchain is still up and running and operating. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's kind of a very, very basic explanation of a blockchain.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify because I wasn't sure what a blockchain was.
Yeah, sure.
So what NFTs are the most valuable and why?
Looking at NFTs, there's a lot of things that give them value. So when you're looking at art is obviously very subjective. So, there's some key things that you can look at, like is the artist really well known? What have they done before? At the end of the day, it is subjective. So the value is kind of in the eye of the beholder. But then you're looking at other NFTs, CryptoPunks. These are very scarce assets, and people find value from these because it's just like collecting anything. It's like, I can have this and somebody else can't, right?
Are they considered one of the first crypto projects? Is that why there are people?
Yeah, and that's the other reason. Yeah, so CryptoPunks are considered basically it's the pioneering project of the ERC 721 NFT standard, which is the main NFT standard that's used. So they actually predate the ERC 721 standard and actually kind of formed the template for what it would become. So they're largely considered the first, if not one of the first NFT projects ever.
So people are paying thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or
hundreds,
millions of dollars,
millions for single crypto.
It's purely based on historical value.
Yeah, I mean, people value these things, because of it's a part of history. People want to own the first of anything,
right?
So that there's been this huge resurgence recently of people going back and scouring through smart contracts and through blockchain data to try to basically revive these old NFT projects. And people have been trying to put together almost this like historical timeline of NFTs. Mooncats, I think, was one of the ones, like Mooncat Rescue. So people basically found this NFT project from back in 2018, and they were still able to mint new ones. And I think like today the floor reached, I think, like 1 Ether for one of them. Wow. Which is, it's okay, but obviously the more rare ones are a lot higher in value. But yeah, so it's just been very interesting seeing people valuing the historical significance of a lot of these things.
Did you have a certain moment that you were like, I don't really know about NFTs, but when was there a light bulb that went off, like, oh, now I get it? Do you remember a specific moment that you had that?
Yeah, I think it was when Engine they really painted the metaphor of the metaverse and Ready Player One and how the whole gaming ecosystem could eventually
Right.
go that way. That's really when it clicked for me. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's
That makes
awesome.
sense.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So is that
Mhm.
what you look for when investing in NFTs? Do you look for like that first project or like
You
how many there are?
Try to find that blue ocean.
Yeah, you're basically looking for blue oceans.
Yeah, we find those blue oceans.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I look for. And obviously, the first thing is you want the art itself to be appealing, right? If it's physical or visual artwork, does it look good? Or if it's audio, does it sound good? Generally, I'm not going to invest in something if I don't like the way it looks. I also look at the team or the founders that are behind the projects. So
Right.
depending if they have a track record or really if it's just you can find some good information about the people who are behind it. A lot of teams dox themselves and post their LinkedIn information, and you can find out some good information. You got to be more wary though when you have anonymous founders of some of these projects, but at the same time, that kind of is the whole point of crypto. It's financial freedom and allows you to have some financial privacy. So I understand why some people don't want to dox themselves, but me personally as an investor, it definitely makes me more nervous when I don't know who the people are behind the project.
Right.
Another thing is the community. Community, I think, is really important behind a project. So if there's a lot of people involved, people are excited about it, people are talking about it, there's going to be more demand. Prices are more likely to go up. If people aren't excited about the project, they're not going to buy it, and people are going to forget about it. They're not going to continue to be engaged. Asset prices are going to drop. Scarcity is a huge piece of it, both scarcity for an asset itself or maybe within a collection. It's like, for example, CryptoPunks, you have different traits, and these different traits have different rarities. If it's wearing a hat or if it's smoking a cigarette, these are different traits, and maybe only 3 out of the 10,000 might be smoking a cigarette. So because of that makes it extremely rare, and people want it.
Were these designed this way? Like for CryptoPunks, did they think this through? This is going to be the rare one.
Yeah, well, so when they built the contract out, originally and deployed this, they have set rarities and set probabilities for the rarities, but these are like computer generated avatars. So it's not like they designed each of these one by one. They basically wrote some code, and based on the code, they were randomly generated.
Gotcha.
Oh, really?
I was more curious
no
if people created this philosophy themselves, or if it was already established, they adopted it. So they adopted it.
Yeah.
From CryptoPunks. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And that's
awesome.
kind of how all these generative avatar projects have come about.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, so I mean, just continue. I mean, there's a lot of things that I look at when I'm looking at NFTs. I mean, like utility is really important, I find. So obviously it's great if you have a piece of art and you could put it on a digital display on your wall and you can look at it, but it would be great if you could actually use that for something and had some kind of utility. So let's say if that NFT acts as access to a Discord server, because you own it, you're able to join this community, or because you own this NFT, it allows you to get early pre-sale access to a future sale. There's any number of things that you can use these NFTs for, basically to provide additional value, utility. I look for things like that. Intellectual property I find really important as well.
Right.
So if you're dealing with licensed collectibles, who are the companies behind it? What's their track record? And then finally is market liquidity. You buy these assets, great, but what happens when it's time to like offload them? When you want to sell them? If there's no market and there's no liquidity, then what's the point? You just own this JPEG NFT and that's it. You can just look at it, but you can never sell it. So it's important that there's a market and there's liquidity there.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
What's really cool too, Spencer, is which I've come to learn recently, artists or people who own the NFT are able to get commission sales off the secondary sales.
Yep.
That's
yeah.
Can you dive into that? Can you dive a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the most powerful things about NFTs. So basically coded into the NFT contracts, you can have secondary market sales or secondary market fees. So when you buy an NFT, right, you buy it, there's an initial sale. The artist makes X amount of money from that initial sale. Great. But what happens when you want to sell it on a secondary market? Usually when you're looking at traditional like art markets or anything, artists don't get secondary market sales. Right. They sell their item the first time, and that's that. Maybe whoever the secondary market might take a fee, but the artist never sees anything from that. But the cool thing with NFTs is you can actually write into code that every single time that this NFT changes hands, you will automatically get X% of the sales price. So if you sold an NFT for $100,000 and you had 5% coded into it, that artist would just automatically get 5%, $5,000 sent directly to their wallet. So it's a powerful, like a passive income tool for these artists.
Is there a standard number for commission sales? I mean, I've heard that it goes up to as far high as 30%. Is that true?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's necessarily a standard. It's just whatever people
Gotcha.
feel is right, and you obviously you risk alienating your community if you try to put your fee a little bit too high.
Yeah. So people are aware of this when they're selling it. They know that there's commissions built in. It's all in the contract.
For sure, yeah, it's all
Okay.
there.
That's awesome.
That's actually
Wow.
yeah. That's
I mean,
great.
it's such a big deal, guys. Because
Yeah,
like
it
you look
is.
at, I mean, for me, I'm thinking about this in like the comic book world, specifically Marvel and DC. A lot of artists, writers, and artists, both they never got royalties for the
Mhm.
characters they created, which destroys my soul to
Yeah.
find out these
Mhm.
people are not getting barely getting any credit, but they're not getting any of the money that's made off these characters.
And remember, these people put all the work and effort into these comics, and that one sale they got in that first beginning, that was it.
It kills me. It kills me.
Yeah.
And like this is the first opportunity. So this is why Spencer, and I would dive into Jose Delbo. And Jose Delbo is a incredible artist. He has done so much with DC. Switch, I'll let you tell the story. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I started working with this company very recently called Apollo NFT. So it's an NFT consultancy, artist management, production, and PR firm, all focusing on the NFT space. So, the reason that I found this company and applied to work there, I saw an article about, it was NFTs and comics. And, I just recently started investing in comics. So I saw this article and was instantly intrigued and wanted to learn more. And in the article, this was about Jose Delbo, incredible comic book artist, drew comics for
Legend.
six decades for DC and
Wow.
Marvel. He's done literally almost every character you think of. He's done Wonder Woman and Batman and really every major character he's had his hand in at some point. So yeah, had an incredible storied career. So Apollo NFT, the company I'm working for, they jump started his NFT career. Jose Delbo is 87 years old, and he is now one of the highest grossing NFT artists in the world,
Wow.
which I think is just absolutely incredible.
Yes.
So through this article, I was reading about it. I thought it was a really interesting and cool story, and it mentioned Apollo NFT in the article, and I reached out to the founder, and now I have a job. So I work with them, and so I'm helping them, build out the consulting side of their business and helping with business development.
amazing.
And we have a
Yeah,
lot of really
that's-
cool projects coming up, which I'm excited to share things about in the future.
I've seen quite a bit. It's really, really, really cool
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. I
Yeah.
strongly. So where can we see the updates in Jose Delbo's work?
Yeah, you can follow Jose Delbo has a Twitter account, and he has an Instagram account. You can also follow my company, Apollo NFT, on all channels as well.
That's awesome.
So that's probably the best way to keep up to date with what we're doing. But yeah, Jose Delbo, it's really incredible. So he, during the pandemic, right, he was pretty much shut down from doing what he normally does,
Mhm.
which is, these comic book artists, the way that they generally make their money when they're not actually contracted with DC or Marvel or one of these studios is they go to comic book conventions and they do signings and they do drawings and they sell them. And that's how they make their money. During the pandemic, obviously all the conventions were shut down. He wasn't able to make any money doing that. So yeah, he was struggling. And his grandson recognized that, hey, you're an incredible artist. You have a huge following. Nick, the founder, he, just like I has been into NFT since around 2017, 2018, has a ton of knowledge in the space. And he decided to, create this company, Apollo NFT. And Jose Delbo is our first and, really our flagship client. So, over the past year since his initial release, we've done multi-million-dollar token sales. He's made way more money just in this past year of
Wow.
NFTs than he probably did in most of his entire 6-decade career with DC and Marvel.
Oh my
Wow.
god!
Which just
Wow.
shows the power of NFTs and what this
Yeah.
technology is able to provide.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I
why does that
love
remind me of like Shawshank Redemption? Like finally get like you get,
Yeah. But
that's
it's just
that's so
great,
awesome.
that story, that could be anyone. That could be any comic book artist now.
Mhm.
That's now possible in this space. That's so cool.
That's so cool. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
well,
amazing.
so speaking of like Apollo and the company you work for, are there any other companies that you're kind of excited about?
Yes. So there's a bunch of companies I'm excited about, especially in the digital collectible space, specifically VEVE and Ecomi, which is, something that our podcast is going to focus on a lot. That's something I'm very, very excited about. They have, looking at the comic space specifically, they have licensing with both Marvel and DC and have done extraordinary drops with both. They have a million other licenses as well. Really, compared to any other company that I've seen, the licensing is it's just so impressive.
Yeah.
Axie Infinity, I'm really excited about. That's a play to earn game. It's gotten really, really popular over the past few months. It went from, I think back in May, it had maybe 30,000 daily active users, and they recently exceeded 1 million.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a
That's
very quick run up,
Wow.
and it's amazing. It's play to earn, and there's people, especially in developing countries, who are making a serious income playing this game.
Wow.
For me,
Oh, wow.
living in the United States, I probably wouldn't be able to make enough money to support myself. But for somebody in the Philippines, for example, they can make 3 to 4 times their normal daily income just playing a few hours a day playing this video game.
Wow.
So this is something that's really, really helping people in need, which is
That's
amazing.
crazy, man.
So happy to talk about that one in more detail. I'm very involved in that whole world and been involved in that space for a while. Another project I really like is Wax. Wax is its own independent blockchain. Their focus is solely on NFTs. They built this blockchain for NFTs, and that is what they do. And I think they do it really well. They've done some really amazing licensing deals with Topps. Just like with Topps, they've done Garbage Pail Kids sets. They've done a few different releases with them. They did a really, really good job with the digital versions as well. They've also Topps has done release with the MLB. So they've done, MLB baseball cards, which, that was a really successful drop. They've done stuff with Funko. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles drop with Funko. There's some really awesome like play to earn games. Alien Worlds is a really popular game that's picked up a lot of steam. They've been on the top charts as having some of the largest daily active user bases of any blockchain game out there. There's Cogs, which Sean mentioned Pogs before, but this is the digital version of Cogs.
Oh my God.
All over that.
So,
Hogs are back.
yeah. Yes, that's Wax. Engine, I'm really excited about Engine and their whole ecosystem of gaming. They have over 60 different projects and games that are in development or live that are being built on their platform that all have blockchain integrations with Engine. A couple of notable names, Lost Relics has a really big player base and really big following. I've also played it. It's like a dungeon crawler game. It's really fun. Basically as you do this, you go through this dungeon, you kill monsters, they drop items. These are blockchain-based items, and they have real value. So, you can then sell them on a secondary marketplace or use them to improve your gameplay, whatever you need. And then they have another really big game coming out called The Six Dragons, which I'm really excited for. It is slotted to be the first ever blockchain game for a console. So
really?
hopefully by the end of this year, maybe beginning of next year, I think they're looking to release on PlayStation.
Wow.
So
that's huge.
That's gonna be really exciting. They have a whole governance system, and it's more of like a RuneScape style type of medieval game. They got these crazy big dragons that you can fight against. It's awesome.
Are you gonna be able to use cryptocurrency on there?
Sorry, say it again.
On the PlayStation, are you gonna be able to use cryptocurrency?
It's a blockchain game, so I imagine.
Wow.
I think that's what they're intending. I mean, hopefully
that's huge.
Hopefully they don't get blocked in any way.
Right.
I think that PlayStation would want to get involved in this space just because that's where things are
I feel
going.
like that's the company that would really back this.
Because they've accepted.
well.
I heard in Japan, like it was like last year, they accepted Engine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was huge. They're the first ever gaming cryptocurrency to be accepted in Japan, and Japan has really, really strict regulations when it comes to accepting cryptocurrencies and allowing them to be tradable in Japan. So that was a huge deal, and also Japan is one of the largest gaming markets as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on with Engine.
In case the listeners out there don't know, PlayStation 5 is from Japan.
In case you didn't know, yes.
Thanks,
PlayStation is a Japanese company, yes.
Yeah, I'm also really excited about a lot of these metaverse projects that are coming up. Some of them are currently playable, but a lot of them are still in development. So Axie Infinity has its own land system. Another couple ones are Decentraland, the Sandbox, Crypto Voxels, and think of these as like Ready Player One. It's like these digital land maps, and you have digital real estate where people actually own pieces of land, digital land in these gaming maps, and then you can build really whatever you can think of on your land, and you can charge people for those experiences. So if you wanted to build a 3D gallery and inside that gallery display all of your NFT art on the walls, you could theoretically charge admission for people to come in and check out the NFT art that you have there, or they could literally buy the art right off the wall. They could literally click on that NFT and just buy it. But also, there's a lot of really big companies that have bought up really big land plots because they believe in the idea of the metaverse and where things are going, and they plan to build attractions and experiences in these digital worlds. So with the proliferation of virtual reality and that becoming more and more popular, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a big deal. And then another project I like that launched very recently, it's called Real Fever, and they do similar to NBA Top Shots, if you've heard of those. They're video NFTs licensed European soccer or football. So yeah, they're European soccer players, and I think they're really cool NFTs. And they did really well in their first drop. Excited for what they have to come. And I think they have plans to actually, do fantasy soccer, essentially using these NFTs as well. So you'll be able to play against other players. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And then the Flow blockchain is really the last one that I'm excited about. So Flow is where, which I just said, NBA Top Shot lives on Flow. So those are NBA licensed collectibles. They did a really good job in pioneering the digital collectible space. And it's been really fun to watch their progress. And then they have another game come out called Chain Monsters, which is like kind of a Pokemon-esque game. So that's another one to look forward to as well. As you can tell, there's a lot to be excited about.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on Eternity?
So Eternity is another really cool project. Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot to include that one. So Eternity, they've done some really cool stuff with, for example, Lionel Messi. They just had a really big job with Lionel Messi and Boss Logic, which we both got into. And they've done a lot of stuff with athletes. I think that's been their main focus. They've done stuff with Tony Hawk. It's been really cool. They have this whole kind of the staking system where you can stake your ERN tokens in order to earn stones, which is just another, kind of in-system cryptocurrency, which you can then use to purchase NFTs on their platform.
I'm stacking on those stones.
We're stacking our stones.
You best believe it. I'm stacking on those stones that I don't know how to spend yet.
John, do you have any other thoughts on Eternity since you brought it up?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really cool project. I mean, it's backed by the Winklevoss twins. I know that Mr. Beast is a big investor in it as well. It's really just a beautiful project. They have, I look at them as the Louis Vuitton of NFTs. That's what I like to call them. Yeah, I like calling them that because if you look at their digital collectibles, they're just stunning.
Gotcha.
They're very real and authentic, and just it's nice. You take a look and you'll see what I'm talking about. They also partnered up with Terra Virtua.
Nice.
Which is I've kind of learned about them a little bit, but it's essentially virtual reality, right?
Yeah, I think that's their focus.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the potentials there could be very exciting.
Wow.
Yeah. So the other project which I'm all in on is VEVE by far.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, VEVE.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we're gonna dive more deeply into that the next episode.
Oh yeah. With all this said, where do you see this space going in about 10 years? Do you think NFTs will be common?
Yeah. So I think that in 10 years, maybe even sooner, maybe 5 years, NFTs will be fully integrated into our everyday lives. Most large companies will be involved in some way in the NFT space, whether they're using NFTs just as marketing or if they have them integrated into their experiences, games, what have you. I think the world will move away from physical art and physical collectibles and start to value more digital collectibles or a hybrid of the two, where you have a physical collectible that has a partner or something that coincides with it that's also digital. And I think there's going to be, like I talked about before, the metaverses. I think there's going to be huge proliferation of these metaverses. I don't think there's going to be one metaverse that necessarily is bigger than all. Like, I don't think we're going to have an Oasis situation like Ready Player One, but I think there'll be different metaverses, and each metaverse will have its own pros and cons, and people will choose based on that, based on where their friends go or based on whatever. So so that's kind of where I see things going.
I totally agree. The only thing I would say too, to add on to that, is I see the potential of these digital collectibles when it really takes off and becomes fully adopted. The physical world is going to take off more too.
I was actually going to say that as well.
Because I mean, like right now, I'm actually talking to a lot of people about my passion for comic books and how it relates on these latest drops with VEVE, and people are starting to understand it more. But oh, okay, I'm starting to get it. And they've actually asked me so many questions about collecting comics. And people are saying, I've always thought about it, but now, like, when I hear you talk about it and how great of an investment these things can be, and I love Marvel films or DC films, there's just great opportunity there. So I think it's just going to expand the collecting world as a whole, instead of just taking over one or the other.
Expand. I think that's the key word.
Which is super exciting for me, because I love comics. I love it, and I've grown to really love digital collectibles. And when those two worlds combine, when you see the passion for both, it's just
yeah, because like, this might be a terrible example, but I remember when I bought a DVD like 8 years ago, it came with the DVD plus a digital copy. You had both right at your fingertips. I remember thinking, oh, that's great. And that's what got me into doing digital movies and getting them online and like going that route. But I still buy Blu-rays and DVDs.
Yeah. And it's actually, Spencer, you got me to the recent Ninja Turtles drop, and one of they're called the Grail NFT or digital collectibles was of Leonardo, and there's only 999 of them.
Mhm.
The really cool thing about this, because it's licensed by Funko, and it's so basically it's Funko's first ever NFT, combined with the first ever licensed NFT with the Turtles.
Oh wow.
And this is only 999 of these. And whoever owns this NFT by I think like January, I think
mid December, I think
mid December, they're going to send you an actual physical Funko doll, limited edition of that exact NFT.
That's awesome.
That is so cool, and that's a
love
perfect example of a company that understands the real world and also the virtual world, and how they're going to be able to combine this collectible space.
Exactly.
Spencer, so how does that work exactly? So I know on the NFT it says like you get a free Funko doll, but how does that work exactly? How do you?
Yeah, so it's not going to. I don't think the token will be redeemable necessarily. So I don't think you're going to have to burn your token in order to receive it. I think you'll be able to keep the NFT, but they're going to do a snapshot essentially of all of the addresses that hold this token on the date, the snapshot date, and then they'll reach out to all these token holders. So my guess is they'll probably just send an NFT that has some basic instructions on how to redeem them. And then there'll be a website or somewhere that you go, and based on information you have or based on the NFT, you might even be able to log into a platform using your Wax wallet, which then verifies that you actually own that NFT and that you're able to receive this physical one. And then unfortunately then you just have to deal with the physical world and shipping and procurement and all that stuff. They're gonna have to figure out how to get it to us, but plug in your shipping address and they'll send it to you.
That's so cool. Because for everyone out there who's a huge Turtle fan, strongly recommend getting this digital collectible because it's going to be
financial
amazing.
advice.
Not financial advice. Strongly encourage. Strongly encourage. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah.
In my opinion, you should go after this one.
Not financial advice.
Not.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's something that's really cool about NFTs is like, and you mentioned this earlier when you said stuff about like passports. Driver's licenses.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is really cool. Is just being able to not have like a wallet full of cards, a bunch of shit like that. Like my documents can be in one place and not in my folder that's in like a storage unit or something.
Agreed. If I never had to carry a wallet with me around ever again, I would be so happy. If I just had everything
it's
on my
getting
phone.
there.
It's
just
getting
on
to
your
that
point,
phone.
It's really coming to that point because I mean, I look at my wallet, it's getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
You have a couple credit cards in there, business cards maybe.
Exactly.
And then you have your your ID. That's really your biggest thing is your ID.
No cash.
I mean, how many people carry cash around them anymore?
Yeah.
And people are still saying NFTs are not a thing. That they're not going to be the future.
Yeah. And look,
are you fucking kidding
get
me?
that there are places
guys?
There are places still in the world that do a lot of cash. Europe is one of those places, and especially Japan.
Yeah,
a lot of it is cash. But
this
it's going to get to that place, that point where it's no longer.
It's really, it's pretty standard in the States now.
Exactly.
Man, it's incredible. But let's go back to the digital collectibles, specifically in like NFTs and digital collectible space. Licensed NFTs are king. That's what's important. So very specifically, you have either big licenses or big artists, which kind of go hand in hand. Is that right, Spencer?
Yeah, sure.
So so when you want to get like, for example, like a recent drop with Marvel, to own Marvel's first ever NFT is a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Right.
So you want to go after brands that have official licenses. Just because you go out and you go on OpenSea and you see a cool looking Marvel collectible, that doesn't mean it's officially licensed. Do your research. Make sure you know what you're buying before you make any purchases.
Yep.
Because that is a huge mistake. Yeah. Because those will not survive.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
That's one of the. I was gonna say that's one of the really cool properties about NFTs in general. Is just the blockchain. It provides this permanent and public digital record, which allows people to verify with absolute certainty exactly what they're purchasing. Yeah, it really is the technology. It allows for provable ownership of your assets, and at the end of the day, it prevents counterfeiting and it prevents plagiarism, which for artists is what's most important.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's incredible.
If you could pick one project to invest in right now, what would it be and why?
That's not financial advice.
This is not financial advice. But if there's one project, just one.
So we all have the same favorite. And
all right, this is a trick question we're preparing for the next episode.
Ecomi and VEVE.
Yeah. So Ecomi is the company.
It's the parent company.
And VEVE is the application where you buy these digital collectibles.
It's a mobile app.
And OMI is the currency they use to buy these collectibles.
Yes.
And we're going to do a full episode. On this episode 2, we're going to do a full breakdown of VEVE for everyone. Yeah. So you get a full introduction of who this company is.
But as a hint as to why we're really invested in this, it is the product, it is the leadership, it is the partners, it is the community, and it is the licenses. And
Yeah.
you'll learn all about that and how important that is for this company and why we are so hyped for this one.
And just to give you an example of some of the companies, some of the licenses that VEVE has, they have Universal, Warner Brothers, DC, the NFL, MLB, Adult Swim, Mattel, Toy Tokyo, Tokidoki, Mondo, and a lot of independent artists like Jermaine Rogers and Ron English and Frank Kozik. It goes on. And apparently they have over 100 more brands coming. It's just absolutely incredible. The potential here is out of this world, and I'm excited to talk to you all about it.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Well, guys,
too.
episode 1. Look at that, huh?
We did it. Wow, we're at the end already.
Turn
Proud of us.
up.
Awesome. Yeah, right?
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Sean just wants to get out of here. My God. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good one. Bye.
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 All right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this first episode of Comics and Crypto Podcast. Please make sure to like and subscribe to our page and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Comics and Crypto. In our next episode, we will be doing a deep dive into VEVE and why we believe this company may not just take us to the moon, but to Mars. Music is by Ninefinger. Make sure to check out their music at ninefinger.com. And you can follow them on Instagram at ninefinger999. Be sure to check them out and send them some love.